Let's jump to this let's get this last one. And this one's, my friends, the UK has been conquered. King Charles won't give an address for Easter, but he'll give one for an Islamic holiday.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak. Ladies and gentlemen, as Muslims across the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth begin preparations to celebrate Eid after fasting for the holy month of Ramadan, I just wanted to convey my heartfelt best wishes.
We get it. We don't need to hear it. I think he's converted. I think he's Muslim.
That might actually be true.
Why don't we see Camilla in hijab, or even better with a burqa? She's like the one.
Because they're allowed to lie.
If you don't see her face, it's okay.
They're allowed to lie.
Yeah.
They're just allowed to make shit up. Excuse me.
Well, yes, I think it does seem like he's converted. And if he was speaking with Muslims, they would say, to prevent chaos and riots, don't overplay your hand.
Yeah, and I mean, if they did convert, then he certainly would be treading on thin ice if he were to give an Easter.
Which he declined to give the
which
Easter
he did,
message.
yeah. That's
which I find sort of insane.
Yeah.
That he's not giving an Easter message.
I mean, it's sort of symbolic of what's happened in his country.
Yeah, his country's a disaster.
I mean,
it's called, let's see, Taqiyya.
Yeah.
It's the Islamic doctrinal concept that permits a Muslim to conceal or deny their faith when facing danger, persecution, or threat of death or harm.
There's also the practice in Islam where if you convert, you can be part of the pillaging and raping and everything.
Wait, you can?
Yeah, it's like if you convert, then you're allowed to go on conquest. You get some share of the booty.
Share of the booty?
Yeah.
Both figurative and literal booty?
I'm sure. I mean, what with the way.
Well, that must be enticing to a lot of young guys.
I guess so. Yeah.
Or kings.
I think it's pretty enticing to Charles here, who is seeking to appease all of the Muslims in his nation.
I don't know that he's seeking to appease them. I think he's
one of them.
Converted. Yeah.
Could he be under duress?
No.
He's assimilating to those who refuse to
Well,
assimilate.
the Commonwealth countries are all very welcoming to Islam.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
But I mean, so is our country.
Trump, not so much.
Trump's not so much, but
Right.
I mean, look at we're losing all of these fights. You have all of the judges. You have all of the judges saying actually you can't revoke the temporary protected status.
Right.
Actually, you can't send these illegal immigrants back.
Look,
actually, you can't do anything about any of these things. It's it doesn't matter what the American people want. The judiciary is so captured that they're
if
they're
a
not
nation
allowing anything to change.
If a nation's structure is as such that it will be destroyed by its enemies, then it will be destroyed.
Yeah.
Right. The United States does not have the statutory capability to protect itself. That's a fact. The fact that the Supreme Court is set to rule against in favor of keeping birthright citizenship, despite the fact that every argument makes sense. I'll put it very, very simply for everybody. There's no argument against what I'm about to say. Wong Kim Ark says domiciled. Fair point. Illegal immigrants have no allegiance to us. They've broken our laws and come in here in violation. You are not allegiant to a power you seek to offend. That's not allegiance. That's threat of action against. So the Supreme Court should just say, if you're a legal, temporary, or permanent resident, that includes tourism, through a visa, your child will be a citizen. If you enter illegally, you clearly have no allegiance, are not domiciled, and subject to removal, your kids will not be. The fact that John Roberts' statement is, it may be a new time, but it's the same Constitution.
Right.
He's basically saying, F the United States and your country, we will not protect it.
Well, and also Kavanaugh at the end saying to the ACLU's attorney, do you want a big win or do you want a little win? And she was like, I'll take any win. But it seems pretty clear, listening to the arguments yesterday, that they did not believe that the Solicitor General had any real case to make.
Yeah.
Which is wrong.
Which I think is wrong. Which I think is wrong too, because the other thing too is it's not like they can't overturn precedent. Wong Kim Ark was terribly decided from what it looks like.
No, I have no problem. The Solicitor General didn't even argue that it should be overturned. Mm-hmm. I think his point is actually pretty simple. The Supreme Court never ruled on the issue of fast travel birth tourism. And so all we need now is a simple precedent-setting opinion from this court as it pertains to a new issue relevant to the facts. Individuals are not domiciled here, have no allegiance here, and so be it. If you think birth tourism should be allowed, then by all means say that, but you can still at least say if you enter the country illegally, you are not granted or afforded protections.
Well, you also, I think, there should be some provision to outlaw birther tourism. There's like 1.5 million allegedly American babies being raised in China by Chinese parents.
Yeah.
And we already know that for people from China to come study in the U.S., that has to be approved by the CCP. Like, that's not just... So any of these people coming back, they are not allegiant to the United States. They are allegiant to the CCP. And suddenly we have... Yeah.
Doesn't make right. That's a moral point.
It just makes.
Those who are willing to exert force and authority will succeed, and those who are not will be destroyed.
And the goodwill of the United States is being entirely abused, and our judicial system, from the lowest court on up, from the lowest court that releases criminals so that they can go murder women at Fairfax bus stops, all the way up to the Supreme Court, are completely captured by this idea that they, like you were saying, they can't do anything. They won't do anything to protect the United States.
So the point is this: the Supreme Court, the conservatives, they absolutely have the power to say, yeah, okay, no, like obviously this is an exploitation of the 14th Amendment. I think it's a long shot that they do, but it is absurd to me that, if anything, if I was on the court, if there's an honorable court and they felt this was a task for Congress, then the ruling should be Trump's executive order shall stand until Congress intervenes, as this is their role to set these standards. Instead, it seems like they're going to be like, yeah, we know China's gutting and destroying this country, but yeah, who cares? It's like, well, okay, then I guess there won't be a United States.
I mean, I agree with all of the points being made, but I do think that what they're saying is get Congress to pass a law. I really
but here's the point.
Is Congress doesn't do anything.
Congress is not going to pass a law pertaining to a constitutional amendment. So one of two things has to happen. Clarity needs to be provided as to the interpretation of the amendment by the Supreme Court as it pertains to illegal immigration and birther tourism, or Congress would have to repeal or replace the 14th Amendment, which is functionally impossible. So any good steward would simply say it is the interpretation of this court that the 14th Amendment does not protect birther tourism nor illegal immigrants having anchor babies.
I mean, I agree with you, but I don't think that. I think the point that they're making is this is not for the Supreme Court to do.
No. My point is not about their statement. It is that if they believe Congress needs to pass a law that clarifies birth tourism or whatever, they are still standing on a question of precedent they can answer and abdicating their responsibility. If they are not being stewards, so the role of the court is to interpret the law, which includes the amendments. They have a question for them pending interpretation. If they refuse to answer that interpretation, they are derelict of their duties.
Well, I think the answer that they're giving, again, this isn't something that I agree with, but I think the answer.
I understand what you're going to say. The point is, I get it. They are cowards and they're not doing their jobs because they're cowards. There is no legitimate argument that they are making. The claim that Congress must repeal the 14th Amendment is psychotic. The 14th Amendment clearly does not cover birth tourism and anchor babies. The interpretation of the amendment is a duty of the Supreme Court, not Congress.
Well, the argument that they're going to make is we are taking the literal understanding of the 14th Amendment.
I understand this point you've made 3 times now.
Yeah.
It does not change that the question of the interpretation of codified law existing passed by Congress and the 14th Amendment is a duty of the courts and not Congress. And again, to say that they will argue otherwise, I agree. And they are lying because they're cowards. The reason why they didn't pick up the original jurisdiction, Texas v. Pennsylvania, is not because it wasn't in their jurisdiction. It's because they're cowards.
Well, that I agree with.
They are weak, pathetic people. Save Thomas and Alito. The Supreme Court is composed of those who seek to destroy this country and spineless loser cowards who will not do their jobs. Thomas and Alito said, we are obligated to answer the question in Texas v. Pennsylvania, as original jurisdiction only goes to the Supreme Court. That is, state suing state is a task of the Supreme Court. And 5 of the justices said no, for no reason. And we know what that reason is. We are terrified, we don't want to die, and we are cowards. They will not do their jobs. What was asked by the Solicitor General is, quite simply, in the 19th century, the question of birth or tourism didn't exist, to which John Roberts agreed and then responded, it may be a new time, but the same Constitution. Indeed, a question is being asked as per the interpretation of the 14th Amendment. Does this apply to birth tourism and anchor babies? And if they defer and say, leave it to Congress, well, no, we're asking you to interpret the intent based on the writings of the framers, what this was meant to be. And they could overturn Wong Kim Ark. They could apply the domicile standard, which would omit temporary visas like tourism, and it would omit illegal aliens. And if they refuse to do that, they're abdicating their responsibilities because they're spineless cowards.
All right, that's fair enough.
Which is what it seems like they're going to do. So again, if Trump has tried as the executive, I will sign an executive order that we will not, as an executive branch, grant citizenship, as is from their branch, to illegal immigrants. And the Democrats said, we're going to stop you from doing that. That's weird. Why should illegal immigrants be allowed to come in and have babies here who get citizenship? Why should the CCP be allowed to do it? It makes literally no sense.
It's insane.
It is an attack on this country, its borders, and its people. And any sane person who cared about this country would simply say no.
And most of the birth or tourism, it looks like, is Russia and China. Like, these nations are supposedly our adversaries.
It's a national security threat. It's 100% national security threat. And the Supreme Court, most of them at least, don't care. And it's such a slap in the face, too, because, I mean, these justices know that they have the entire MAGA base behind them on this issue, and yet they are still cowarding on this.
Well,
look at the Supreme Court precedent where they overturned previous Supreme Court precedent. And this Supreme Court is one of the most feckless and pathetic. But I get it. Brett Kavanaugh is terrified because someone tried to murder him and his family.
Right.
And you should resign right now, Kavanaugh. Give Trump an opportunity to appoint someone else. You know what they did to Kavanaugh for confirmation was insane. And he's been okay, so I don't want to rag on him. But Amy Coney Barrett has been bad.
She's been a disaster. Yeah, I mean, she was put there to overturn Roe. She did that, and everything else has been.
John Roberts should resign. Coney Barrett should resign, and Trump should appoint some actual constitutionalists who want to go in and say, we will answer these questions, threats be damned, like Thomas and Alito do.
It's not like the Congress would do their job and
it's not like most of them would have a.
That's true, and then you're losing half the victories you might get, even if they are spineless.
Because at this point, let's say that did happen, the Senate would wait until after midterms.
I think
Thune won't do anything. Like
this is the worst, best system.
He has the power, right? Thune has the power. Like he could overturn this filibuster thing and get so much pushed through. He could get everything through, but he's afraid that the Democrats are going to do exactly the thing he refuses to do, and they're going to do it anyway.
There's unfortunately no answer. Congress is immobile. The president is constrained by hundreds of judges.
Congress is on vacation.
But let me say this. There is some, I'll give you some hopium. There was a very interesting article published by the New York Times where they said Trump has already won. He will lose birthright citizenship, but he already won. And that is the initial ruling ending universal injunctions has basically given Trump carte blanche to do anything he wants, which is very interesting. And this seems to be a break in the system, an exploit. Maybe exploit isn't the right word, but it works like this. Universal injunctions should have never existed. The idea that a lower court federal judge can issue a nationwide injunction makes no sense. So the Supreme Court ruled you can't. The issue was that Donald Trump, I think it was pertaining to transgender military officers or something like this. There were 2 that sued, or 2 or 3.
Right.
And then Trump said that they won. Trump then got an appellate court to block that injunction, but then another court in a different jurisdiction issued an identical ruling. And they said, hold on there a minute. How do we have 2 different federal judges doing the same ruling and then a higher court only putting a stop on one of those injunctions while another injunction exists? This can't make sense. So the Supreme Court said, yes, a federal court can only apply relief, can grant relief to those who have standing and sued themselves. This will require a special class for any broad categories, which means if Trump says by executive order. He is barring citizenship from anybody who is here based on birth tourism. They will sue, and Trump won't fight it. And he'll say, you know what? You win. Those 2 babies can have citizenship. That's it. I'm not going to appeal it. You know why? Because now you've got to sue on behalf of literally every single person who comes here as an anchor baby in order to grant them relief.
That's what the ACLU is so mad about in terms of suing on behalf of illegal immigrants being deported.
They are angry because if the Trump administration does not appeal, they have no opportunity to go to the Supreme Court to get a nationwide relief for all in that category. They would have to form a class of individuals that are anchor babies or birth tourism babies. And so if Trump decides, okay, those 2 individuals won and I won't appeal, there will be no higher court. There will be no precedent set by any higher court nationwide. So basically, Trump can keep issuing executive orders every single time, tweaking them a little bit, and they will have to keep resuing. So these 2 individuals who get relief as birth tourism babies, Trump can issue a new executive order that encompasses them, but it's a different order, and they'll have to sue again. And it'll keep happening. Like Cuomo did with free speech. When he shut down churches, so the court said you have to reopen, he says, okay, and then issued a new executive order shutting down churches again. He can just keep doing it.
Yeah, and that was a crazy case, too, because what was it, like a Jewish leader and a Catholic leader brought that case to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, for an emergency ruling to open the churches, and the Supreme Court was like, oh, it's moot because they're open now. And they were like, no, it's still not moot. It's still not moot.
Yeah.
That was a crazy ruling. That was so infuriating. I was so angry just living in Brooklyn as a Catholic person. I was just so mad that the Catholic Church complied. I was like, what are you doing? You're seriously denying the Eucharist to everybody because of Cuomo? Like, how does the Catholic Church have no teeth? That was infuriating, too.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.